Hello and welcome everyone to another in the NECC's education series. Tonight we are talking about casting. My name is Jim Lowery, affectionately known as Coach Jim, hashtag the Dad Bod God, and I have a really great panel with me here today. We're going to go through, we're going to introduce everyone, let them talk a little bit about themselves. They've all requested that I don't use their last name, so it's going to be single names, mononyms for everyone going around. So we'll start with the lady. Alice, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you cast.
Hey everyone, I'm Alice. My IGN is Go Ask Alice, and I'm a Valorant caster. I'm pretty new to casting, so I feel like I'm a little bit of like fresh blood on this panel. I just started casting a couple months ago. I got into casting. A couple of friends of me were in a community Valorant tournament. My team didn't make playoffs, and they were like, "Hey, we need a caster to cast the finals that you're not in." And I was like, "Sounds great. At least I get to be involved in some way." So that was my first experience casting. Then one of our fellow NECC casters, actually Leechy, reached out to me, was like, "Hey, I saw your VOD. You have a lot of potential." And then he kind of connected me with my first casting event. And I've just been kind of rolling off that since. He introduced me to all the wonderful people here at NECC. I've been doing some other events, and I've been really loving learning and growing as a caster.
All right, Alice, thank you for being here today. Going to the other side, the man in the hat, Lars. Lars, tell us what you cast and what you're doing here today.
I'm a Rocket League caster. I've been casting for about a year or so now, just kind of on and off. And it's picked up more recently with NECC and some other events that are going on. I also do casting coaching as a service on the side just to give people a start in casting and it gives them feedback and some growth and help people get rocking and rolling on that.
Thank you as well for being here. And last, certainly not least, we've got Novanta here. Novanta, what do you cast and what are you doing here today?
Well, I'm a big fan of Rocket League. I can tell on my chest. And much like Lars, I've been about a year in the game. I come from the world of professional wrestling, casting or commentating. And so I like to take things and make them kind of event-based type deal. I love it. I think it's one of the best times I have during the week. And I'm excited to be on the panel today.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, Novanta. So like we said, today going to be all about casting. 2 weeks ago, we started our education series with just an introduction to college esports. If you want to go check that one out, you can find the video on that of YouTube after we're done here today. But let's jump right into today's topic, which is casting. And first question on the board here, what is casting or what is shoutcasting? Because it's a little different than traditional broadcasting. So who wants to jump on the grenade and go after this question first?
I guess I will. So it's a little different than traditional commentary, but it's not terribly. I mean, it's a good jumping off point of if you've watched sports, you've heard commentators. Traditionally in sports commentary, you have a play-by-play and a color commentator. Your play-by-play, someone that really is very quick on their feet. There's someone that knows the game very well, and your color provides some extra insight into what's going on. They play off each other. You tend to have that casting duo, and it works very similarly in shoutcasting, which is just video games, but it brings a little bit different mechanical knowledge to casting and a different kind of play because you're not there at the event, obviously, and there's different rules and a kind of entirely different dynamic when it comes to video games because you're not limited by the real world.
Alice, you got anything to add on there, or did you like Lars's definition?
Lars pretty much nails it. I think another important part that when I think about casting and my role as a caster is also focuses a lot about like storytelling and creating narratives. Not only are you there to tell the audience exactly what's happening and explain some stuff they might not know, like some context about the teams, but you really are the one who's kind of guiding the audience through the narrative of the game that you're watching and, you know, history, rivalries, like is there playoff implications, similarly to a sportscaster. But it's a lot about storytelling, and I think that's what makes it really fun and exciting.
Alrighty, Novanta, like finish us off here. Put the cherry on top of this definition of shoutcasting.
Yeah, it's kind of like that when you explain to people at parties. Oh, it's kind of like commentary in sports, to Lars's point, but to Alice's point, there's a little bit more that we're responsible for in a good way to be able to inform what's going on the screen, but also educate what the game is and why it's important. So for a lot of people, there is an easier on-ramp to say baseball or basketball, but it may be a whole new concept watching a game like Rocket League or Valorant or Super Smash Brothers. And so it really has a mixture of all of that, making sure you get why it's important in that moment and also the mechanical run to play.
All right, I couldn't have said it better than the three of you did there. That's a great definition of what casting or shoutcasting is. So now that we have that foundation, let's go to you all personally. I actually want to flip it around, start with Novanta on this one. How do you prepare to cast? Like, What's your when you know like a week ahead of time you've got an event to cast?
Yeah.
What's your progress going through?
Well, it depends on kind of the league and stuff like that. Sometimes you'll get like a stat sheet from other people. They'll tell you what the playoff implication is. But I assume I'm going to take it as if I'm taking it cold, right? I just know the two teams are playing a weekend event. I like to practice what I'm going to say about each team. I usually work in an analyst side or the color side. And so it's my responsibility to twofold. One, to give my play-by-play a bit of respite if they can take time to recollect their thoughts. And two, to provide an extra flair for things. So I tend to take a moment to write or come up with like lines for different aspects of play and people may not realize. Or if a team is based in Canada and they're taking a team based in Atlanta, I get to say things like, this might be an international incident, for example. For me, it's really my job to add the human element to these digital representations on the pitch. And so about the day before the actual casting, I will practice in the mirror. I will walk up and down the street and talk about things at my broadcasting pace to make sure when it comes time for game time, I'm not tripping over my words as much.
Alrighty, that's a really great way to look at it. Remember, folks, if you're in the Twitch chat, go ahead and throw questions out if you have any. We will have a Q&A afterward. Lars, I'm going to cut it to you next. What's your game day, ritual going on here?
So just like Novanta, the answer is it depends, and that's going to be the answer for pretty much everything. But a little more context into it depends. Like I said, I do casting on my own channel as a way for casters to get some time to learn and grow and just try out casting. But as part of that, we just throw random teams together. There's no rhyme, there's no reason. So there's not really a lot of prep. A lot of the prep goes on the broadcast side and not a lot goes into the actual casting side. But then you have something like NECC, which has a league and structure and history. So you take a minute, you go, you look at the records, you look at, is there any kind of overlap between these teams? Have they played each other before? Have they played similar teams before? Sometimes they haven't played each other, but they both played the same team. You can kind of get some feel for what's going on there. We also have storylines that we try to keep track of here at NECC. So things like that, you're just getting a quick overview of what's going on. And then I also like to sit and talk with my co-caster a little bit as well and just kind of prep. If it's someone that I've worked with before, there's a lot more just, hey, let's just hit it because we already know each other. We already know how this is going to work. But if it's someone I haven't worked before, like I know I cast with Foof on Tuesday over at NECC. And the night before, we talked for about an hour just on how does casting work and how is it going to work between the two of us? How is this going to flow back and forth? And so it depends on the commentator and their level of experience and things like that. But sometimes it can be as quick as I sit down 2 minutes before the game and we're just ready to go. And sometimes it can be, pretty extensive background.
And that is something we're going to touch on a little bit more later is duos and casting and your partner and how the back and forth works a little bit. So thank you for bringing that up because we're going to talk a lot more about that later. Alice, saving you for last on this one. Do you have anything special you do right before a match starts?
I have some little things. I think what Lars and Novanta said are totally on point, but some little things like for me, I will go over player names and say them out loud to myself to make sure I don't trip up on the syllables because sometimes players have crazy names, especially in collegiate leagues. And I also try to stay really up to date with the meta of the game. So I cast only Valorant, and I'm a huge Valorant fangirl. So I'm watching the pro scene every single time there's a tournament. I'm trying to see what champions are being played, which champions aren't being played. I'm trying to keep up on the patch note. I am a color caster primarily, so I'm trying to make sure that I have that analytical framework to help complement my co-caster. And I also will do this. I haven't met a lot of people I'm casting with, so I will watch my co-caster VODs if I know in advance, and I'll just watch how they cast and try to see what kind of things they like to do. So I feel a little better prepared when I go in, so it's not totally cold and I'm terrified. It kind of helps me feel a little more reassured.
And that's a really good way to look at it. And I don't know a lot of people that would go in there and do that. So that's something that a lot of people should look more into. Trying to figure out who you're casting with can have huge implications in the go-between between the two of you. So thank you for pointing that out. We got some questions coming in on Twitch chat, but we're going to keep going with the ones that the producer prepared for us first. And the next one would be, is there any special training or equipment that you need to get into casting, to get into shoutcasting? Just like if you wanted to drop everything and do it tomorrow, what would you need? Or special skills you need to go acquire? I'd actually come right back to Alice on this one and throw it your way.
Yeah, I feel I don't know how qualified I am to answer this because I feel pretty new to this, but what I did was I just kind of jumped into it and I just started practicing. I found people who were looking to have their game streamed and I was like, "Hey, can I help out?" And I think just getting the practice in, it makes it so much less scary. If you just go for it, and then once you start going for it, I think you can start identifying what you can improve on. I also think if you're going into like a new esport, for example, just watching VODs of how other people are doing it is super helpful for me. It gives you a framework. Obviously, you're going to do a little bit of your own thing as you are your own person, your own content creator. But just seeing how the game typically was cast and the way the game tends to flow and how humans can help the gameplay make sense, that was kind of how I started to get into it.
Novanta?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with what Alice was saying. Like, it's there's a big gap between seeing someone play a video game and then having an esport contest, and so you'll be surprised how many people at the pub league level will just love to have someone on camera or on screen saying something, which sounds in a bad way, but if you're just starting out, if it's an idea in your head, that's the best place to start. That's how I started last year. Around this time, I saw this senior league of Rocket League players, those over the age of 30. They were doing their own tournament, and I said, oh, I can come over there and make old man jokes. And so I would say, pull over, grandpa, or get his prune juice, and that was how I started doing it. But then doing that, I'm so proud of myself. I upload it, and I go, oh, wait, what I'm doing is just a small bit of what casting was. And I go, okay, I did that first step. What is my next step going to be? So I know it's easy to say, just start, bro, but it really doesn't take a lot to hit up something that's just having a tournament and say, do you need someone to put a voice on it?
And Novanta, that hurts a little bit.
It's true.
As somebody over 30, that hurts a little bit. I'm just letting you know.
Hey,
it
I'm
hurts.
old too. It's cool.
Lars, I'm going to come to you, but I'm going to ask you to focus a little bit more on the equipment side. What special equipment might somebody need if they wanted to get into casting?
Nothing. You don't need anything. If you have a mic, some kind of microphone, I know, like when I do things with my girlfriend, for example, on my own stream, she doesn't have special audio equipment. She uses AirPods. That's what she talks with. And the audio quality, it's better than a lot of like gaming headsets and things like that. It actually comes through really nicely and really cleanly. Whatever you have is going to be good enough. A lot of the content, there becomes a point where like, okay, the audio is so bad, this is not listenable. But as long as you have equipment that's in good repair, it's probably not going to be that. You don't have stuff going on in the background. It's more how you set up your environment than what you have, and then what you bring to the table with that environment that you have. So have a way to watch the game and have a microphone, and you're done. And most people have some kind of microphone handy anyways.
Well, can I jump on there what Lars was saying real quick? When I first started, it was basically a MacBook Air and a gaming headset, a $20 gaming headset. And that's great because it gives you a chance to mess up. It gives you a chance to make it, see if it's a hobby, if it's a career you want to pursue. Don't buy all the gear first and be like, all right, now I'm ready to cast. Because what I realized when I loved doing it, I swapped out parts, and now I have a station, I have a better chair, all that kind of stuff comes later.
All right, we are going to go off of the menu that the producer gave me here. We're going to go to one of the Twitch questions just because it was something that we were going to bring up anyway. And it's something we all talked about briefly here. Casting with another person, their specific question is, does it help to meet them first? So let's talk about that one. And then if you kind of want to segue into duos casting, let's start with you, Novanta.
Yeah. So ideally, the most information you can get is a lot better to you. If someone's available and you can sit there and talk with them, maybe not so much cast with them or watch their VODs, if you can just get a vibe of how they work, that's great. The issue I've come across is a lot of times we're just too polite for our own good. And we'll go, what you want to do? Whatever you want. Okay, what do you want to do? What time you want to meet? It's cool. And you're like, I don't really know. But it's okay, because that tells you that you have people that are willing to work to make the best product possible. So watch the VODs, try to meet at least 20 minutes before to see the kind of personality you're with. So you know, hey, look, this person's either all business, do your thing, or you can joke around, the kind of cast you want to have, and then just make sure you follow up afterwards. Hey, was that something you're looking for? Is that too loosey-goosey for you? Was I too rigid? I hope to work with you in the future.
Also, I'm going to switch the question for you a little bit because you already kind of talked about this a little bit. So I'm going to ask you, what do you do when you end up in a casting duo with someone you don't feel like you'll pair well with?
Oh yeah, so that to me is you have to divorce your feelings psychologically from the product at hand. So there's a lot of times where you just know in the thick of it, like this is not going to work out, but then you have to realize it's not about how you feel. It's really about presenting the sport that you like and want to appreciate. So it's easy to do it and go, hey, that was great. I'll let you later, pimp. Than to like say, you know what, I'm not really feeling this, and let's have a bigger discussion afterwards.
That's a great answer. I was trying to ask the question to Alice, but that's a great answer, Navanta.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Alice, anything to add on to that? Because that was a great answer there.
No, Navanta makes some great points there. I think that's a really good thing, and I think it's super important. There's kind of a lot of ego sometimes in esports, and people and content creators. So I think, even if you're not meshing well with your person, or if your energy level isn't quite at the same level, just to make sure that you're still being polite and maintaining that relationship, because you never know when they're gonna get a gig and they can't make it, and then your name comes up. If you can just be friends. No, you don't have to be friends. If you can just be friendly to people you're working with, even if your vibe doesn't mesh well, I think that really sets you up for success, and it will come back to reward you later.
Friendly and diplomatic usually solves all problems. I'm just letting y'all know. Friendly and diplomatic usually solves everything. Lars, anything to add to that one?
I do. I'm going to talk about kind of the flip side of that is when you have somebody that you didn't mesh well, didn't mesh great on stream with, but you still want to work with them. And that's, perfect example here is Novanta. I think our first cast together, Novanta brings so much energy and charisma, and everybody just loves to see him. And it's the same way behind the scenes. The dude is an awesome guy. And like we did our first cast together, and it was like that just didn't mesh. It wasn't that he was doing anything wrong. It wasn't that I was doing anything wrong. It just, the chemistry just kind of wasn't there to the extent it wanted to be. And that can be its own kind of disappointment where it's like, man, I really, really want to work with this guy. We just don't mesh that well when it comes to casting. But then you just get back, you get some practice together, you spend some time casting together, and sometimes that practice is live on stream and you don't get a chance to do it off stream because frankly, there are times to practice off stream, but with where I know a lot of us are right now in casting and everything, the only time you have to cast is you are live on stream. So there's a little bit of kind of a feeling each other out period, just like there is in the game where like the teams have to feel each other out on the field. Casters kind of have to do the same thing in that first bit because you just don't get a chance to practice that, but you keep spending time and eventually you get it to work. And now Novanta and I can work together and it works better. And that's a great thing because like I said, tons of charisma and energy.
Well, there you go. And that's something that's I would assume is really big in is hosting. Is at least one of the duo has to have the energy and the charisma. Who do you guys think it usually is? Play-by-play or color? Who brings more energy?
That's entirely a personality thing. I think it doesn't really matter as far as on the technical side, play-by-play, color, and there's also not just the defined roles of play-by-play and color. You start to get into hybrid casting and that kind of thing, and kind of at least in Rocket League, kind of the new vogue of it's more kind of color heavy and more conversational than it is that rigid traditional play-by-play color role. But at the end of the day, it's personality. Again, Novanta, great example. Tons of energy, tons of charisma. People just magnetically drawn to it.
Stop.
I, on the other hand, tend to be kind of flat and just and
that's not true,
so
Rose.
it's great to be able to work with somebody like that because they can kind of carry the team through that.
Alice, you had something to throw in there?
Oh yeah, I was just saying. I think it's always so fun being able to see how different casters react to different really hype moments in the game, because you can sometimes have your play-by-play caster just absolutely go off and call the ace and have a really fun time, and it becomes, I think, really easy for you individually to match the energy of your co-caster, especially if they're really high energy. I can be kind of low energy sometimes. But if I'm talking about a game that I really love, it's not catch up me to enter that.
Alice, if you can hear me, can you say that again? I think you cut out there in the middle of your answer. I think we might be having some technical.
Am I still lagging?
You're still frozen. I don't know if you're still lagging. We heard your voice better on that one. All right, we're gonna let Alice fix her technical issues there. We're gonna come back to that answer though, because I really liked where she was going with that. We're gonna move on here, and these next two questions kind of go into each other. And Novanta, I want to ask you first: how do you market yourself? Like as a caster, how do you market yourself? How do you put yourself out there? Social media? Do you have a website? Do you have a demo reel? What is it that you do to try to get yourself on the market?
The answer is yes. Like most things that are growing up here, it's really referral based, right? So people say, I need someone. Hey, I know a guy. I think one of the advantages for me is that I live on the West Coast, which means I can do later games, especially for outside regions. And I tend to respond pretty quickly to messages, which has always been the thing that's helped me out in business. But most of the business is referred business, if that's what you're looking for. But it's good to have some place to send people. Now, I have a dedicated Twitter. It's at NovantaRL. Doesn't have have all the followers in the world, but that's not really the point. The point there is to really like flex my meme game, talk about the sport I love so much. Reels are important, but not as important as my caster friends have made it out to be. I feel weird saying that because I'm still new to the game, but I've been in broadcasting for almost 20 years because I'm old. It's good to have a calling card, but the problem is that since we are so worried about the single reel, we will wait and hold and like curate the best possible content in a little like 2-minute square. But by doing that, you've already grown as a creator. And so it's already out of date, or it always seems rigid, or there's only one flavor what you can offer. If that's the case, I always recommend having fluid reels every quarter, every 6 months, every year, saying this spring, this fall, this league, this whatever, so people see a running tally of your work over time on a single page, whether it's a website, a blog, a Twitter handle, a Twitch page, something where they can go and actually see the stuff.
That's a good way to look at it. Alice, are you back?
I think so. I hope so.
Alice is back. Yay, Alice is back. Alice, I am going to get back to that other question, but we're going to keep rolling on this one. You said you're also kind of new to it. How do you, if you heard the question I was asking Novanta, how do you go marketing yourself in your new role as a caster?
Yeah, so since I'm still pretty new to the scene, I've just been trying to foster some relationships with people around me. I try to at least get to say hi to people, even if I don't get to work with them. And the the casters who I am working with, I try to make sure we maintain, like, we'll add each other on the game. Maybe we'll hop into some pugs at some point. But I really just have been getting gigs based off of who I know at this point. So I'm just trying to like maintain those relationships and keep a pretty positive social media presence.
Oh, there you go. And Lars, anything for you on the? You want to disagree with anybody, or do you just want to you want to echo along? What do you want to do here?
I'm gonna throw a little disagreement, just a little one. So it's more agreement than disagreement. But Novanta's answer of yes is fairly accurate. You have to be kind of across the board. The demo reel is important. It's not as important as knowing people. At the end of the day, if someone has a known entity, they're going to go with that over potentially a better caster just because it's the devil I know. And it's much easier for them to just be like, hey, do you know a caster for this? And yeah, here you go. Done. Easy. They don't have to think. They don't have to worry about it. They don't have to put any real effort in. And that same logic applies from your first cast to the tippy top pro level, LAN level. It comes back to just, hey, do you know somebody? Yeah, I know this guy. And if you're a known entity, then that's huge. That's going to be your number one. Your number two, however, is that demo reel. It's going to be, sometimes someone will say, hey, do you know somebody? Yeah, I know this guy. But they still, want to check him out. They don't care enough. You are not worth, as an unknown, you're not worth it to them to go watch a bunch of VODs and really figure you out. They're not going to put in that time and effort. They don't know you. They don't know who you are, and you're just not special. I'm sorry. Like that's the reality of it. If you're not known, you're not special. And so you need to give them the best possible quick little package of just, here, I have 30 seconds to get your attention and see if I can hold it through a 2 to 5 minute video of who I am. So, it's important. And Novanta's absolutely right. You want to keep that fresh and updated. You never want to say, okay, I've done my casting reel. I'm done. I get to sit on it. And then going forward, it's also social media. Unfortunately, a reality of this is people want you to bring your own audience with you because there is an audience with casters as they grow that travels with the caster. I know personally, it's maybe 0 to 2 people, but that it's a real thing. So one of the things they'll check is, okay, you were referenced by this person. We checked your demo reel. It was good enough, whatever. How many Twitter followers do you have? And if you don't have enough Twitter followers, then okay, well, we don't think you're going to bring an audience with you. So next guy. And so you really have to be present across the board. You have to find a way to be marketable, to be omnipresent in the scene to make sure your name is out there. And that can go back to the reference side as well. Instead of someone like actually referencing you, when they say, hey, I need a caster. Well, I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw this guy that's a caster, put a clip of his casting or something. Maybe I can reach out to him for a demo reel. You have to be omnipresent, but at the top, in order, it's going to be references, demo reel, social media presence.
Gotcha. But you heard it here first, folks. According to Lars, none of us are special. You heard it here first.
In that context of someone is looking for you, to them, if they don't know you, you're not
Lars.
special.
Okay, and that kind of goes into the next question here, and I think we might be having technical difficulties with Alice again. We're going to try to bring her back as soon as possible. or maybe it's my technical difficulties. We're going to find out here in just a hot second. But how do you go about finding jobs and opportunities? If somebody's not looking for you, if your own marketing of yourself has not worked, how do you go about going out and finding those opportunities to do the casting that you enjoy? I'm gonna go right back to you, Lars. I'm gonna stick you with 2 in a row here.
Okay, well, the reality of it is we kind of know this one, and I know Novanta actually, speaking of social media presence, he put a tweet out about this a little while back, and it's very, very true. Is you just have to be shameless, unfortunately. So first, being with an organization helps. I know we all mentioned we're part of Videon, which is like a broadcast organization. So that helps. That helps gives you kind of an inbuilt network that you can work through for those references. But you just got to be shameless. You know, talking with other casters that have made it to higher levels. They all say kind of the same thing. It's a grind. You go out and you seek out people that are putting stuff on, and you just blast messages out of, "Hey, do you need somebody? Do you need somebody? Do you need somebody?" And it sucks to do, honestly. I'm not very I'm not a very forward person about that kind of stuff, so it's tough for me to go around and just kind of like shove myself into somebody's life. But like that's kind of what you have to do to get those opportunities, is you just go around and you start saying, do you need somebody? Here's a demo reel, here's a resume, here's a Wikipedia link, whatever it is, and hope that they just, you know, at least respond with a no, not just ignore it. But most of the time it's just going to be ignored, and you just got to kind of suffer through it. It's like finding another job.
All right, Novanta, Lars already said that he literally stole your answer on that one. Do you have anything to add on to what he was saying there?
Yeah, I think he's right. You gotta be shameless, but then back it up. You know, it's a lot of things. And if I'm getting too deep here, you can stop me. But like, when it comes to any kind of creative pursuit, it tends to be an extra barrier for creators of color and female creators and creators that have English as a second language, of saying, hey, look, I believe in myself, please hire me. So I say it's a numbers game. If you are nervous about asking 3 people for things, just try 6 and hopefully one will get back to you. And I slid in DMs. I was like, oh man, here's my real bro, or like here's my Twitter. What do you think? And I feel pretty dirty about it, but I can tell you plenty of times. The first couple times I did it, I went outside on a walk with a beverage in my hand that was non-alcoholic, of course. I hit send and I go, whoo, I did it. But over time, and doing those reps in there, it becomes like a part of your creative growth. So you know there's casting times, you know there's handshaking times, you know there's self-promotion times. Doesn't matter if you're casting or a painter or a breakdancer. That's how you build the game up.
You know, you mentioned cut you off if I thought you were going long. I think Twitch chat will explode if I cut you off, Novanta. I don't think that's gonna happen tonight. Alice, what about you? How do you go about going out and looking for those jobs to get more time casting Valorant?
Yeah, no, I think Lars and Amanda totally nailed it. I'm actually taking notes right now. I'm looking for any advice I can get on how to keep getting gigs. So I'm writing down notes along with Twitch chat right now.
Fair enough. Moving on, I don't see any other questions in Twitch chat. Guys, ask them in Twitch chat. We got all night. We're here for a while. We need more questions. Otherwise, Novanta has to leave if you don't ask us more questions.
Don't threaten them.
Oh, I will threaten them to keep an audience. It's my job to keep them here. It's your guys' job to answer the questions. With that being said, though, if somebody does want to get started with their own career, and we kind of all touched about this earlier, when we were asking about the special training, we kind of touched on this one. But if somebody like wants to do it, like best advice other than just do it, because we all know that's what you got to do. You just got to get out there and do it. Other than that, what's the best advice if you want to start?
I have so the thing that really got me through it, and I think Leechy actually might have told me this, say yes to things that scare you. There's a lot of times where people will ask you to do something like, oh, there's no way I could cast in front of 100 people, which sounds like a lot to some people. Other people, that's like two people in a room. But like when someone asked me to cast my first thing and like, oh yeah, it's like a couple hundred people will be watching, I was like, there's no way. I will literally cry on stream. That'll be so bad. But then you say yes and you do it anyway. And that I just is like real advice that really like gets me through whenever I say yes to something and I am scared out of my pants. I just think like, hey, just do it. You said yes, commit, follow through, and that's the advice I would give to other people who are just starting out and things are really scary to them.
Lars, I'm going to go to you next on this one.
So if it's number 1 rule of getting started in casting, just do it. Number 2 rule of getting started in casting, just do it. I know you said not to give that answer, but that is the harsh reality of it. A lot of people, they're afraid to just take that first step. And you know, kind of going back to I'm going to be the bad guy. Kind of going back to that not special. Your first one, No one cares. No one is going to sit here and be like, oh, they did a bad job. I'm going to pick them apart and I'm going to kill their whole casting career right now because their first ever cast was terrible. It's probably going to be terrible. Like, let's just get over it. That's just the reality of it. You've never done it before. It's fresh. It's new. That's just the reality of being a beginner at something. And the second thing is, it's not going to haunt you. It's not going to follow you for the rest of your life. Not unless you do something monumentally stupid. And then that's an entirely different issue. But more specifically, for a game like Rocket League, you can get replays. And so a nice place to start is when there is no pressure of viewers, go get a replay and solo cast it. And then record it and watch it back, see what you liked, see what you didn't like, see where you can improve. And if you're not comfortable going out and casting with an audience, just start with that. Just go back and get those replay casts, those kind of personal, and again, make sure you're recording them so you can watch them back. And then once you get that confidence out, like Novanta said, a lot of people, they don't really care how good you are. They just want to have someone talking over it. Just start asking people. I mean, just friends. Just be like, hey, we're going to do a private lobby. Do you mind if I cast over it? Done. Easy. And then you could just start building that presence and that repertoire.
Novanta, anything to throw on there with these two?
I think Lars hit the tail end of his statement. Like, I talk about the tournament I started in when I said, hey, look, is anyone casting it? Can I get on it? That was like step one. But step 0 really was the solo casting. At the time, I was terrible at the game Rocket League. Like awful. Like for those who watched go play the game, I was a silver 1 when I started like thinking about becoming a caster. And so what I would do, I would go to my favorite mode, Snow Day, and basically like talk to myself as if I was like a Premier League soccer commentator. Like, here comes Novanta. Oh, he missed again. Oh, dear me. Right? That was just kind of a fun joke. But recording that and playing it back, and I go, hey, if I did this longer, if I did this bit longer, if I talked about the other opponents, maybe that could be it too. So yes, just start is the number one thing you should do. But practice with yourself in the mirror. I did stand-up comedy. Same thing. When you write a joke, you take a couple of minutes or a couple of routines to yourself in the bathroom mirror. Then you go to an open mic and then go on stage and perform. Same thing. Try some things with yourself. Record yourself on your own streams. Then say, hey, I've been doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 hours. I'm way better than someone who has it on their mind as an idea. Put me on instead, and that's your foot in the door.
That's a really great answer. We have another good question from Twitch, actually, 2 of them. And the second one that just popped up there, I was going to add on to the first one, so I'm glad somebody else asked it because that means I don't have to ask my own questions. But we're going to go, I'm going to start with Alice. It's a 2-part question. What was your first casting experience? The first one. And then as of this point, what has been your favorite casting experience? So first and then favorite.
Okay, so my first one was, I talked a little bit about this earlier, was I didn't make it to playoffs, so casting for a friend who's a tournament organizer, and he's like, hey, yes, you're gonna have to observe, stream, and cast this 5-game series by yourself. Go have fun. And it was actually so much fun. There's something kind of freeing about it just being you, and like the expectations were all very low. I probably had like 5 people watching me, but I was having the best time as these like silver elo Valorant teams just tried their hardest to like beat each other. And honestly, it was a blast. And I definitely learned a lot because it was my first time doing it. There was really no pressure, and it was a good time. I definitely lots of mistakes, lots of just like silence of like, I don't know what to tell you. They're shooting at each other and it's going poorly. But it was super fun. And I think my favorite experience, I honestly, every single time I get to work with someone I've already worked with on the NECC cast, I always just have a great time. Like, there's something that feels so much safer about going into a cast and you kind of know the person doing it, because it's really scary when you have no idea who the person is, never worked with them before, never even like talked to them on Discord. So I don't know. My favorite time is anytime I get to see someone I've already known and I just feel safe. I'm like, hey, well, if this goes bad, at least, no one will hate me, so it'll be good.
I'm going to have to remember that phrase for the next time my team isn't doing well. Well, there's a lot of shooting and it isn't really going well. Lars, what about you? First casting experience and favorite casting experience?
I don't remember my first casting experience. So one of the harsh realities
No,
of
come on,
casting.
Lars. Be honest. Everybody remembers their first.
All right. No, I genuinely, there is a reality of when you start casting a lot, like a lot, it just starts to kind of blend together, and all right, no pot. It just starts to blend together, and it was a while ago, and I'm sure it wasn't the most positive experience, so I'm not sure why I stuck with it, because I just, like I said earlier, you're not good when you start. It's just the reality of it, and it's it was about a year ago. I know why I started casting, and it was kind of more out of necessity. I was trying to do affiliate streams for a different league, and we just couldn't find casters. So I was like, okay, I'll just try it myself. And for some reason, stuck with it because, like I said, I guarantee it wasn't good. It wasn't pretty, but we just kept rolling with it. My favorite casting experience. Oh boy, that's a really tough one. I think I'm gonna have to go with it's just kind of a general answer of whenever it's kind of impromptu. That's a lot of fun. When it's, there was a time I was streaming on a Sunday. I'd been going for like 6 hours. I was playing Rocket League, and then I had a couple people from my team jump in. I was like, all right, we're going to cast a best of 5 right now and just have fun with it. Or I was, watching someone's channel and they're like, hey, you're a caster. Do you want to come cast a 1v1 hoops between the #1 hoops player in the world and an SSL in one? It's like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's just do it. Like you just have fun hopping in and just running with it.
Novanta, last but not least, what do you got?
Yeah, so that particular tournament I had mentioned, the Senior Series tournament, was my first ever casting thing, and to show you how humble those beginnings were, my entire setup was my MacBook Air laptop and a gaming headset that I had put on a dining room chair in my living room and sat on another dining room chair in front of the Xbox because I didn't have any other gear. And I was hunched over because my camera was picking up my kitchen, which I hadn't cleaned in a week. And so I was doing this going, what a shot, Grandpa. And I remember that because I'm like, why did I say yes to this? This is the most awkward thing on the planet. I am talking about carball, but to me, that's where it started. And now I can sit in my bedroom and I have like a dope webcam and I have like a dope microphone. I get to work with Lars and NECC because that Tuesday night flow seems like a whole different step in my career because I'm actually sought after as talent. I was like looked after and someone's like, hey, you need to be in that fold. That to me is a growth in such a short time. So that's kind of like not quite the favorite, but it's definitely like a mix of two. Going from the start of 0 to seeing that, not saying I'm making a huge name for myself, but what I've heard or overheard people mention my name, there's never followed by angry emojis. It's always like, oh, he's aight. That's all I want is to be okay.
Fair enough. This next question will be for Novanta and for Alice. Barry Chu asked what it's like being a person of color or a female in casting. If one of you wants to jump on that one first.
Alice?
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's like a multifaceted answer, right? I don't want to take up too much time. This is a very complex topic with a lot of things, but I have just like a couple points. Is like it is getting better to be a woman in esports, and I feel like that's important to hold on to. But it's still can be kind of difficult, especially when you're a new content creator, player, or whatever. Because I think I'm trying to remember the last time I hopped into a Discord call in a server I'd never been in, and there was more than another like one woman in a call like ever. And there's not a lot of times that is. And I've never like worked with another female caster, which kind of sucks. But you do see there is a lot of growth in esports and women in esports. And I think women content creators are becoming so much more popular and more valued. And so like it's so awesome when you do end up hopping onto a gig and you see that there are female producers, there's women working in any of the technical positions, either as players or as content creators or as casters. And so it's really good to see that there is growth. It can be like super daunting and challenging sometimes entering spaces where you're not sure if you're going to be like respected or if there's going to be comments that you have to kind of like smile through and laugh at because you don't want to start anything. But it's getting better, and I have like a lot of hope. And all the amazing women I've met like since I've started casting has like I'm just so optimistic about the future and like how much more inclusive I think the space is going to grow.
No, Novanta, taking it a bit different. I mean, obviously you're not a female caster, but as a as a person of color, what do you run into with casting?
Yeah, it's again a very complex issue, and I'm also an older player too. That's like another thing I put on. I joke about it a lot, but like I literally cast with people half my age sometimes, and that's something that I have to get used to. Very much like Alice's situation. There's times where you're in rooms and the average median player, someone in their early 20s, and tends to not be a woman or a person of color. So you get that different kind of locker room talk that you're used to, and there is that difference. Well, I kind of just do silence now at my age. I'm like, I don't have time to energy left. But I know the feeling of being like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be seen as a bad person. Hopefully that would change as well. I like to say this. I think about it, but it doesn't dominate my feelings. It's almost like air. I know air is always around, and I know that air, I need it to live, but I don't think about it because I don't want to necessarily put it on my back because there's so few of us that do it. At the same time, though, I'm hoping, and I would love to have that kind of presence that I've been able to do this long enough that could be seen. Oh, there's Novanta, he's doing it for this sport, or hey, there's Alice doing it for Valorant. There is a community going because that begats more people to try and say, okay, well, if someone like that looks like me can do it, I can try it as well.
All right, we're waiting for more questions out of Twitch chat. I promised somebody I would ask this to Lars. Lars, Criminal Critic wants to know if you'll go out for drinks with them. So you can have that discussion with Criminal Critic later. I have a question, though, for you all.
Yes, I will.
Well, there you go. Matchmaker, make me a match. There we go. And so, wow, sorry. Started laughing here. Do any of you cast anything other than the game you mentioned? I know Lars and Novanta talked about Rocket League, Alice talked about Valorant. Do any of you cast anything else, or do you all only cast one game?
I could start. I mean, so the answer is no. I only cast Rocket League, but there is a precedent for people that cast multiple games. So I know if you look in the Rocket League season, you look at Rogue. Rogue's caster is Sean Spaceman Rogers. He casts Call of Duty. His whole come up in casting was Call of Duty, so he does a lot of Call of Duty stuff as well. So there's a lot of there's a big precedent for people that do both. And speaking of which, there are plans in the future. I know I've already organized with one of our bigger name casters over at Videon to do some stuff on my channel in Call of Duty or Halo, and then I talked with Staged, who's another NECC caster, who's an absolute gem. He does MOBAs, which would be that'd be an interesting perspective for this conversation, is MOBAs. But we're going to do some MOBA stuff in the future as well. I know we looked at Valorant through Videon as well, and there's just a lot of different opportunities to expand into different stuff. Part of the barrier is I don't really play a whole lot of other stuff, so it's hard to kind of break through that knowledge barrier. You know, Novanta's proof in point that you don't. Sorry, Novanta, you don't have to be very good at the game to cast the game. You know, starting at a silver 1, you just have to have a good understanding of the game, and I think Novanta's done a very good job, growing as a player, but as a caster. So as long as you can break through that barrier, there's nothing stopping you from, cross pollinating.
I know I'm trash. It's cool. No offense.
It's because you don't respect rule ones.
I hate rule ones. I can't stand them.
Alice, I'm going to cut over to you because I know Novanta also is Rocket League, so I'm going to cut to you as a Valorant caster. Is there anything else? Because Valorant, a little bit similar to some other games, Rocket League's kind of on its own, but Valorant being a shooter kind of lends itself to being able to look at some other stuff. Do you cast anything else or just Valorant? And is there anything else you would want to cast?
That's a good question. I think it's interesting. I personally haven't cast anything besides Valorant, but a lot of my co-casters, Valorant's like their second or third game. Like, it's something that they're really new to, and a lot of the times they'll just kind of slot themselves into the play-by-play, because if you've cast CSGO or Overwatch, they're pretty similar. Or I think some people come from Rainbow Six, which is a little slower game, so they come from these shooter games, so they have an idea of how to cast of some form of tactical shooter. And so I kind of just try to buckle down and really focus on playing a more analytical role as a caster, because I feel like that's something that requires, especially if I only have one game, I better know what's going on in that game. I feel like I have way less of an excuse than these like insane casters who are casting like 4 different games every week, and their minds are just so huge, and I am so in awe of them every day. But yeah, I would be willing to cast different games, but I'm kind of so in love with Valorant right now, I just couldn't see me doing it.
Kind of.
And then Novanta to roll it out here, Novanta.
Yeah, as far as like professionally cast or semi-professionally cast, it's basically a Rocket League. For funsies though, FIFA, WWE 2K, those. I mean, I'm a wrestling commentator, so like that's like a home base for me. And FIFA has a very sports soccer formation, which people would say that Rocket League is like soccer. I don't quite agree. I do think Rocket League is more, from the casting standpoint, I think Rocket League is more like Formula 1, but I do think there's a little bit of shared DNA there of like team-based formations and all that. So I'll do that for funsies, but as far as like professionally, it's strictly Rocket League. Yep.
Okay. It looks like I missed a question from Twitch chat, and I do apologize for missing this question. Casting usually seems to be done in pairs. Are there any benefits to casting in a group of 3 people? I know At an analyst desk, there's usually three people, and I think I've seen one or two casts with three. But what do you all, the panel, think about a trio casting rather than a duo?
I'll go first. For me, it's hard without seeing the people. And I know virtually you can see someone, but I think body cues means a lot to know when to go and when not to go. When you're in the throes of the game and there's two voices you have to handle, sometimes it's hard to judge when to jump and you end up stepping on toes, especially as a color commentator. So I'll do them. I'm not going to be like, oh, no, I'm Hollywood, baby. But it's not my favorite.
I will go ahead on record and say that a 3-person cast for something like Rocket League is a terrible idea. I think that's an awful idea. Now, there's obviously you have setups where you have a host that helps introduce things and bring it in, but when you are in mid-game, 3-person cast for a lot of the reasons that Novanta mentioned, especially if you're not in person and you can't. I know watching some RLCS people talk about how when they're at LAN and they're in the booth, they can put a hand on someone's shoulder and really give those physical cues. I'm in my desk at home in my apartment. I'm alone. I can't do that here. And a lot of other casters only have one monitor. They're not fortunate enough to be rocking, multiple monitors. So they're watching the game. They can't look for you to, raise your hand in the background and be like, hey, I want to talk now. So with 3 people, you're just going to end up stepping on each other. It's going to be a chaotic mess. It's very similar to why, a lot of people are like, oh, on a hybrid cast. If you're a new caster, I think that's a bad idea. Having the hard traditional roles is very key. And when you're not sure who should be talking, well, if you have a play-by-play and you have a color commentator, it helps very easily separate those out. Now, hybrid, like I said, it's kind of the vogue going forward, but it's much, much more difficult to pull off. And now if you throw in a third caster on that, it's just a nightmare. Just don't do it.
Alice, you want to round us out on this one?
Yeah, those seem like excellent points. The only world I can imagine 3-person casting teams working really efficiently is if we have a development of like a really slow-paced esport. That's not what I see. Like in Valorant, even some people complain that there's a lot of downtime in Valorant. Even then, having 3 casters there filling up that air, I feel is kind of like a recipe for disaster. Because when the plays actually start happening, like it's so easy to step over your co-caster's toes. I can't even imagine having a third.
But maybe you talk about a slower game, so maybe something like League of Legends where there's a lot of possible downtime at that point, maybe.
Yeah, I think you'd still want to have like a hard play-by-play. So when the action picks up, it is them and you just don't touch it. But I was just thinking to myself, just like you were saying, as a MOBA may be the area where you could maybe pull that off, but then you're still kind of looking at like a play-by-play, a color, and maybe kind of a host role that, MOBAs can have 10, 15 minutes of downtime. You could take that time to kind of give some conversational feel. And at that point, maybe the play-by-play can step out a little bit. So you're still really kind of working with 2 casters. You're just kind of rotating actively who those 2 casters are.
As Twitch chat just shouted out, and it was my example as well, as League of Legends is the only place I have seen it, and only at the World's Finals. And I think the third caster was actually more like almost a reporter style. Which would be interesting, kind of have the Aaron Andrews of esports. Apparently, there was a tweet earlier today, and somebody would like to know, Novanta, how is casting like Formula One?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of ways to explain what Rocket League is. And so that's a game I mostly cast if you're first jumping into the stream. And so people say it's like car soccer because the ball goes to the net. Casting for play-by-play, it's a lot similar to hockey as far as the dynamicism of it all. Again, I grew up with professional wrestling, so my style talks about the psychology of what people are feeling in the pitch, especially as somebody as mechanically poor as I am. I know how it feels to be on the wrong end of a Brazil, for example. But what I like about Formula One, and I do think a lot of new casters should take a lot of this out from it, just my personal advice, what I've gathered, is that for a long time, that sport was amazing, but inaccessible to a lot of people. It was like, well, how can I see the laser reflexes of a driver if it's just 20 cars on the track going around in circles? And you'll saw over the past 5 years when Liberty Media purchased F1, there's been a lot more inside the cockpit action. There's been Netflix's Drive to Survive. The drivers themselves are becoming stars. And every time, you can even search for this, search F1 David Crofty. When they go to a track, they take a good 3-minute featurette about the track, the turns, what happened 2 years ago. They really give a personality to asphalt. and open wheel vehicles. So now we're playing Rocket League, where if you haven't seen the game before, because I have to pretend this is the first time you're ever watching the sport. You just stumbled across it on Twitch or ESPN like I did. I saw Sleegy perform at ESPN for the first time, and I said, who's this guy? He's not Sean Stackhouse. But when I'm playing the game, and you're seeing Octanes and Fenix, or even a random, I don't know, Merc on the pitch, you have to give people something to watch onto besides the team colors. Why should I care? Why is that decision important? Why is that reflex mechanic a very, very important part of that driver's or that player's skill? So I think more than anything, it's a lot like F1 because, again, cars are inanimate objects, but after watching a race, a fan can tell you how they feel about a race.
I'm gonna go with Alice with this one because Rocket League, although you could have slightly different cars which have slightly different hitboxes, at the end of the day, I mean the cars are the cars, and somebody in Twitch chat can yell at me about that one. But Alice, in Valorant, you actually have different agents. So how do you go about with the casting? Not only identifying the different agents, talking about their abilities, but kind of going into the psychology of what each player is going to be doing with each particular agent.
Right, so that comes down a lot to your knowledge about the game and your knowledge about the players who are playing. Riot Games does a pretty good job at giving each agent a very specific skill set, so you can typically tell if a player is picking a Jet or a Phoenix, you have an idea already of how that player is going to play that agent. Their Phoenix is going to almost every single game going to be your entry frag, and your controller agents like Omen or Brimstone, they're going to be playing more passively. They're going to be more supportive playstyles. So you already have that knowledge going into the cast, so you can already start to try to like craft your framework around that. That's why I love that Valorant casts start in the champ select screen, so we can already have an idea of how the games are going to be played just by the agents, because the meta is pretty already established this far in Valorant. I think there might be some few like more changes as the patches keep rolling out, but like each agent has such a specific role, it becomes really easy to identify how these players are going to play them. And then when you add on top of that, NECC again is like having, if you're in a league, then you can start identifying which players are going to be your top fraggers on which agents. So if you see your duelist agents, your duelist players consistently playing at their peak on their agents, if they switch off role and they're picking up a Sova, that's already a storyline going in that you can really hyper focus on, and it becomes really easy to pick specific bright spots on either team and identify how their playstyles are changing or staying.
Novanta, Twitch chat's gonna be mad if I don't ask, but they want to know, how do we get to be as cool as you?
You guys are way cooler than I am. I am just an old man who loves a game of carball. You guys are fine.
Lars, coming back to you here, you brought up earlier that you do coaching for casting. What all is involved in coaching for casting?
So the big thing there is just like as you watch Rocket League, you can kind of identify what teams are doing well and what they aren't doing well, and things they can do to improve those things. It's the same idea with casting. Nobody's perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, and everybody can improve their casting in one way, shape, or form. And I think that starts with identifying, is this a style choice or is this a technical issue? You know, the technical side of casting, where it's not saying uhs and ums. It's how you interact with your co-caster. It's how you manage time as a caster, that kind of thing. And really trying to separate those things out. And then once you've identified technical issues, how do you fix them? And then maybe give some advice on the style side as well. So that starts with getting to know a caster and knowing what they do well and what they don't do well. So, you know, a little bit of a self-plug. On my channel, as part of that, on Wednesdays, I get players together, like I mentioned, and we throw a random series together. And it's not about the Rocket League, it's about the casters. And it gives them an opportunity to either, hey, I've never casted before and I want to try casting. Well, here you go. Here's a no-pressure environment. It's not part of a league. No one's making any money. Just here's an environment where you can just try casting. No one's going to judge. It is what it is. And then at the end, we can either do it on stream or off stream. We can break down, hey, here's some things you did well. Here's some things you didn't do so well. And here's how you can work on them. It also doesn't have to be on stream. It can be, you know, just, hey, let's look at a couple of VODs. Let's take a minute to walk through some of the things you did. And like I said, it just comes down to knowing kind of the ins and outs of casting and what it takes to do it well. Now, what it takes to do it well, knowing that and actually doing that are different things. So, you know, don't be expecting perfection out of me, because I got a lot to work on.
But what you're saying is, if we go to you for coaching, we can go from not being special to being a little bit special.
A little bit more special.
A little bit more special.
Somebody.
Smart. Breaks you down and sells a product. I love it.
There you go. There you go.
I'm
Twitch
on
chat.
that Cosmo grind of like, hey, you're ugly, so you need these products, but actually you want to be beautiful.
Yeah. Everybody's beautiful except you. You need this makeup. Let's do this. Let's sell makeup.
Exactly.
I know I need a little foundation myself. I got a little. Twitch chat. We need some more questions. Otherwise, I gotta let all these fine people go. I know Alice wants to answer some more questions, so give us some more questions. Twitch chat. I actually have one that Lars touched on a little bit earlier with the audience. And I actually, we're all guilty of it. Everybody here dropped a plug for themselves. I made the joke. I dropped one of the 2 hashtags that the NECC has for me when I introduced myself. Hashtag the Dad Bod God. I dropped another one in Twitch chat earlier when somebody asked a nonsense question about favorite colors, which I might actually ask later. And I dropped in my favorite color, then the hashtag Coach Jim is wrong, because that's another hashtag that they have for me, because I'm generally wrong when I say something on stream. But the question I'm getting to is, how do you go about building your audience? Because that's a really big thing. Lars was talking about it. Then when you're looking for jobs, you have to be able to bring that audience with you. How do you go about building your audience? And Alice, I'm going to come to you first with this one.
Yeah, so I'm definitely still learning exactly how to do this efficiently. What I've started is I have my own Discord server just with a bunch of friends I play games with all the time. So I tend to just, whenever I'm doing something, just post a link and be like, hey guys, if you have time, if you want to stop by and watch some Valorant, like I'll be casting. And a lot of my friends are really supportive about it. And so I think that's kind of how it starts. Again, like we talked about already, social media presence. I tend to try to at least tweet often when I'm doing events or when I'm going to be casting something. I also have my own Twitch channel that I mostly just play Valorant on, but that's just some way that some of my followers who follow me on there, like, oh, by the way, I also cast, so come watch that sometime. So that's kind of just what I've been doing. I don't have any like grand plan for it yet, but I'm just kind of going a little slow and steady about it.
Alice, really quick, what is your Twitch channel? Plug it out there. What is it?
Hashtag, I know. Go ask Alice Val for some subpar Gold 3 Hardstuck gameplay if anyone's interested.
There you go. Lars, I'm going to come to you because this question was, started because of what you were talking about earlier. So how do you go about building your audience?
It's a tough one to answer. So I'm going to get a little bit into kind of the technical side of casting here real quick and why this is difficult. And that is, when you're casting, don't read Twitch chat. Don't have it open. Don't even have it as an option. Close that window and put it away. You do not read Twitch chat while you're casting. It's a little bit of do as I say, not as I do, because I do read Twitch chat while I cast, but you never, ever should. It's a terrible idea. You have effectively nothing to gain by reading Twitch chat, and you have everything to lose. It's the internet. People can be mean. They will find something they don't like about you, and they will pick it apart, and it's going to derail you from what you're doing. At the same time, they're not adding any value to what you're saying. You're not getting anything out of Twitch chat that you really need. If there's something that needs to be said, it's going to, your producer's going to let you know, or whoever's in the background is going to let you know. It's a little different when you're broadcasting and casting at the same time, but so it's tough because you don't really engage with chat as you cast. And then again, that's just something you just don't do. You don't sit here and talk to chat in a professional environment. You don't make that kind of interaction. So it's tough to build that audience. So, what Alice said is a good start, is have your own content out there. Be bringing yourself to people in an environment where you can interact with them. So be on Twitch, be on YouTube, be on Twitter, whatever it is, engage with people. Part of that is that personal engagement, that ability to get to know people, to have people kind of be a part of what you do, and they're going to follow you around where you go. It's great. And then also be good at what you do. If you're good, people are going to want to follow you regardless. So just be good. It's not as effective as being that personal engagement, but you can't personally engage with everybody. As you get bigger, you're going to want to be good enough that people are just going to start following you, that you don't have to do that. And with those people that you personally engage, or the people that follow you for your quality, it's free advertising. They're going to go around and tell people like, oh man, we have this conversation all the time when we talk to other casters. Oh, I love this caster. Oh, this caster is great. Oh, this caster is not as good. But their names are still getting out there and it's still getting promoted. They don't know these people personally. They don't. For the most part, there's a couple people we interact with that do, but they don't know them, but they like what they do. So it's kind of free advertising. So it's again, it goes back to that. How do you get started and grow as a caster? It's that same kind of vein of, you have to be multifaceted and you have to bring a bunch of different ways to kind of pull people into your little sphere, I guess.
All right, Novanta, we're going to get to you here, but I was given permission to disagree with Lars on this one. So
okay, please, by all means.
I'm gonna step in here just for a hot second. I'm gonna have to go the opposite way with you there, Lars. I think especially with Twitch is such a great resource. The fact that you can interact with your audience in either real time or close to real time is one of the greatest things ever. As someone who comes from the other side, who did sports broadcasting where you're in a booth and there's no way you can talk to anybody, being able to talk directly to your audience, I think is a huge asset. The two hashtags that I just threw out there that are mine, I didn't come up with. Twitch chat came up with those. And the reason anybody watches me do anything is they like the fact that I self-deprecate. And I didn't self-deprecate until people started throwing those tags out there. And I'm like, you know what? If people want to make fun of me for this, great. It means they're watching. If people are dropping hashtags and making fun of me for something, great. I'll be wrong on purpose. I mean, I try not to be. I'm wrong enough on accident. But like, if I can make somebody watch just to watch me, like do something stupid, great. They're still watching. So yeah, like, should you definitely ignore the people who are just haters and trolls? Absolutely. Ignore the haters and trolls, but don't be afraid to use the resource that is Twitch chat. Just because those are the people that are watching you. Those are the people you want to keep coming back. And as a host, I have to look at Twitch chat just because that's where all the questions are. But otherwise, I agree with what you said in principle, but I think it's a great resource. As somebody coming from the other side who did real, I'm not going to say real sports because esports is a real sport, but traditional sports broadcasting. Sorry, I almost slipped up there. Novanta, and then let's come back to you here on this question.
Well, let me ask you a question, Jim. If imagine you and I were friends, because we are out for today, and we go out to lunch, and my lunch, whatever, is $9.95, and I have exactly that, and I go, oh wait, it's actually $10. I'm 5 cents short. Can you spot me the 5 cents? Just would you?
Yeah.
Okay, that was today. But imagine every time we went out to eat, I was short that 5 cents. There would be a time where you're like, bro, you know what the prices are, right? Why you keep asking me? The point I'm saying is our content, our streams, our come check me out on this thing, those are the ask. So your community will go and support you, but if you ask all the time, you're not going to get that engagement you want. So it's very important that you decide what to do in between those times. Whether you're a meme person or a joke person or a hype person, fashion person, or whatever, you have to give people something, some breadcrumbs of free content. Then when you say, oh, by the way, I am short 5 cents today, your friends will go, oh, he's good for it. I'll check it out. Now, I am fortunate enough because I just don't cast. I also do other shows and podcasts as well. So it's kind of a slice of what I do. So for my podcast crew, the casting is the ask. And for my casting crew, the podcasts are the ask. But the idea is the same. You just can't say, hey, check out my cast. Hey, check out my cast. It's, hey, I'm a good personality. What I do is pretty fun, and I'll do it. I look at Athena on G2. And she will start fights for no reason. She will say, Fennec are trash for no reason. There's no link to anything. She'll just do it. And it opens up a discussion. So next time your algorithm goes, you want to see more of Athena? Here you go. And that's how you get to like build that way. That's why you get people walking in going, I don't know who you are, but use a random hashtag. I'm following you, Nova. You're like, cool.
Well, I think so. I'm gonna qualify a little bit here. So this is not to give any credence to Jim because that's just what we've decided here. Is I'm just gonna be at odds with Jim. But no,
Sure.
so what Jim
Come
is
at me,
saying
Lars.
is,
Come at me.
as you're casting to go ahead and read chat. I still think that's generally a bad idea. But it's like we said at the start of this. It depends. There's a time and a place to get that interaction. And kind of to Novanta's point, and what Alice was talking about, bringing it all kind of together, is you build that engagement, that connection outside of the professional style broadcast. So you go do your own Twitch stream. And then, yeah, if you're not reading chat in your own Twitch stream, then you're doing Twitch wrong. Like you've screwed up. If you're not interacting, if you're not, retweeting and commenting on things on Twitter, you're doing it wrong. So there's a time and a place to get that engagement. It's just what I'm saying is while you're doing kind of a professional level broadcast, that ain't it.
I don't know. Like I said, agree to disagree.
I'm not saying you have to change your opinion. I'm just saying that's kind of where I'm
me
at.
and Caleb Gloob had some of the best content ever at 2 a.m. and the Valorant finals this fall, just interacting with Twitch chat. It was great. And that was, I think, the NECC's most watched event was that one. So I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out there. Most watched event. We interacted with Twitch chat for 3 hours. I'm just throwing it out there, Lars. I'm just throwing it out there. As to what Navanta was saying, Navanta, if we were friends and you asked me for a nickel every time we went out for lunch, I'd just buy you a roll of nickels for Christmas. I'm just telling you.
Troll game strong.
And I would still give you the nickel every time, but I'd still buy you a roll of nickels for Christmas. It'd be really fun.
So you just buy a T-shirt and not see any of my content. Okay, I get it. It's fine.
Yeah, sure. Why not? It looks like, though, everybody agrees with you there, Lars, in chat. Either that or somebody dropped 5,000 points all at once, which I think was our producer. Not saying, just saying. Not saying,
may or
just
may
saying.
not have been me.
You know, Lars might have more channel points than me. Who knows? So there was another question. There was another question. I have to go up because there are a lot of people commenting here.
Lars is cute.
Yeah, there were a couple of those. Somebody agreeing with Lars and disagreeing with me, which happens all the time. Are there any major differences between casting tournaments versus casting league matches? And this is actually a really good question. Novanta looks like he's really excited. I'm going to go to him first.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I'm from the analysis side. I'm the color person. This is where you get to really paint the picture, because if you're in some leagues, you get a stat sheet, and you'll see there's like a part of caster that would read the stat sheets and go, oh, this team is second seed and they have a chance of winning here. But no, you can really get creative here and make things feel like they're the biggest playoffs, the biggest tournaments. Everyone's working hard and they're training on the pitch. It's their time. It's their time. Their fans are in. You can really make this as big or as small as you want. And when you do that, when the chat feels the hype, your play-by-play will elevate that as well. It's hard to hear all of that and go, all right, well, take it to the Aqua Dome for this shot. You know what I mean? So I love those. Any chance to really show why the game means so much to me as an individual and as a caster, I'll take it. So tournament play is always better for me.
Alice?
I love casting leagues. It just being able to see the same players or see the same teams every week and being able to watch how they grow is so fun to me. Especially in a game like Valorant where we do get updates pretty frequently, I think bi-weekly or whatever they're on right now. Like seeing how the meta changes and how the players adapt to the changes, I think it makes it so fun to craft those storylines and those narratives around those leagues. I know tournament games and playoff games are definitely, I feel, probably maybe more fun to cast because there's a lot on the line, but I just love watching and being able to help kind of craft the narratives that take us to those playoff games. And it for me as a color caster, I just feel like there's a lot more for me to talk about if I'm coming in with a bunch of league knowledge than if I'm just put on like a one-day tournament event. I'm like, oh, here, there are these teams, these are their elo, have fun. I love casting in a league.
I don't know. Lars and me are going at it now. I don't know if I should let him answer this one. What do you think? Should I let him? I guess I'll let him answer. Lars, what do you got on this one?
I'm going to take a bit of a different tack here. So we've got Novanta that says tournament is more fun. We've got Alice saying it's league. I'm going to say, again, it depends. But at its core, it's the same thing. You're both trying to build a story over time and then bring that in the context of a single match, right? So in a tournament, you know, where it kind of gets into that, it depends, is you have a lot more potential to just cast a whole bunch straight and just follow a team directly through something. Whereas in a league, you may be getting different teams every week and it's harder to just kind of keep that flow going. So there's where you get a little bit of an advantage in a tournament because you get that consistent flow through. But at the same time, you've got a structure of different teams going at it over time, right? So you get to build that story with that time. So the short answer, it's kind of the same thing.
All right, I got one more. Our producer's saying to go ahead and wrap it up unless Twitch chat wants to throw out any last questions. Now's the time. I'm going to buy you a little bit of time asking Alice one last question here. Alice, you're the one who's talked about building the narrative. You're the one talked about building the story. And between a tournament and a league, you know, there's story in one place and there's like a novella in the other, because a tournament more being the novella than the pure story. But would you rather do a tournament or league playoffs?
Oh, league playoffs 1,000%. I feel like that is like what you've spent the past however many weeks kind of like nestering and like finding the rivalries and picking them apart. And then when they finally get to go to playoffs and even just as a fan, I just think playoffs in any context are so exciting, and especially if they're coming from a league, so you know the teams, you know who your favorites are, you know who the enemies are, and that's why esports, I think, is just like the most fun it can possibly be, is like league playoffs or just chef's kiss.
It's like the best of both worlds. It's a tournament at the end of a league play. It's you win with
Absolutely.
league playoffs.
Absolutely.
Alrighty. In reverse order, we're gonna get out of here unless there's any other questions. I think somebody's gonna be DMing you here, Novanta. I'm not gonna ask that one. I'm not gonna ask that one live on stream.
I'll be DM'd. Nice.
But we're gonna go reverse order. So Novanta, if you want to go ahead and plug yourself here and any events you've got coming up soon.
Oh, absolutely. So there's two ways to follow me. One at twitter.com/NovantaRL. And my Twitch page is a little different. Twitch.tv/FloboBoyce. That's me. FLOBOBOYCE.
All right, Lars.
So a little bit longer plug. I'm sorry, but same thing. Twitter is going to be the best place to find out where I'm casting. I always try to tweet where I'm casting. So if you like what I do as a caster, that's going to be the best place to follow me. And also, it helps me out the most for that whole thing we talked about, where Twitter follows actually matter when it comes to getting jobs and whatever. Whatever. Twitter.com/LarsNewt. That's going to be the easiest way to find me. Is always just Lars Newt. I've got that name pretty well locked down. Twitch.tv/LarsNewt. I do Rocket League, Flight Sim, few just other kind of random games as I feel like it. We do the Wednesday cast series for casters. If you want to you want to try your hand at casting, there's roles for it in my Discord. You can't get to my Discord right now because my bot runs local on my machine, so it does not run constantly. You have to catch it when I'm live. So just go ahead and follow and catch me when I'm live. Outside of that, events coming up. I'm actually doing RLCS for South America tomorrow, and that'll be on the Twitter. So I'm gonna just say that if you want to see where that's going to be at, do it on the Twitter. Follow me there. So that's it.
Last but not least, the lovely Lady Alice.
Yeah, Twitter, go ask Alice, LOL, because I am a dirty League of Legends player, unfortunately, still. And then the Twitch is twitch.tv/go ask Alice Val.
Alrighty, and that will do it for the NECC's second education panel. I believe the next one will be April 24th. So it's 3 weeks on that one. And my producer is going to remind me what that one is about. Remember, folks, NECC regular season ends next week, week 9, the end of the regular season on Monday, Rainbow Six on Tuesday, Rocket League on Wednesday, Valorant on Thursday, Overwatch, and on Friday, Hearthstone. And you will hear, I believe, all of the personalities that were on our panel today, plus myself casting those games next week. Still waiting on my producer to tell me what that one's going to be about. I wish I had my unplugs. I don't. I hate social media. I'm the one person in casting that hates social media. If you want to see me, just follow the NECC. I am around. Still nothing from the producer, so we'll wrap it up here. Thank you for watching our second education series. Join us back on April 24th. I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be a good one. Hopefully, I'm hosting that one as well. For all of our panelists, for Gabe in the back doing the producing, I think Michael was back there skulking around somewhere as well. And for Patrick for putting it all together. Thank you all for hanging with us, and everybody have a really great night.